Hello and welcome back to Keep It Simple Academy. Today we're going to be continuing our series on solving equations. So this is part 3 and we're going to look at why it matters, some shirt examples, and then we're going to get into two-step equations. So before we start, you're going to need a few things. If you get lost while we're going through it, there's parts 1 and 2 of this series that also talk about equations, and take a look at those if you get lost. You're also going to need paper and something to write with as we go along. So there's going to be a few practice problems and things you can think about. So it'd be good if you have paper and something to write with. And then, it'd be nice if you can write your answers and thoughts in the comments so that we can all see what we're all thinking and learn together. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about why this matters, because a lot of the time, in math class, we're like, okay, what's the point of this? So we're learning to solve equations because it helps us figure out questions in real life, like things with games, like money, or things that are related to measurements. So it's very useful in many different areas of life. In part 1 and 2, we saw the building blocks of how equation works, and here we're going to take it further so we can do more complicated things. And by the end of this video, we're going to be able to solve equations that look like this. So if this looks complicated, don't worry, we're definitely going to be able to do it by the time the video is over. Okay, so this is our lesson plan. We're going to look a little bit at an example, like an intuitive example of how this works. Then we're going to connect it to math, and then we're going to keep seeing how we can put it all together using this example with the shirts. So let's say that you have a friend that likes to put on 7 shirts every day. Let's imagine this is him. So he has like a bunch of different shirts on, and that's just his style. He likes to do it. It's pretty bizarre, but that's him. So one day he comes to your house, and when he leaves, you can't find your favorite shirt. So you realize this quickly. You stop him at the door, and you see he's not wearing it on the outside. It's not you can't see it on him, but you think he has it. So how can you find your favorite shirt? Like, what would you have to do? What would you have to tell your friend to find your favorite shirt? So basically what you would have to do is you think of it this way, right? So the first shirt that he puts on is here. Then the second shirt is over here. The third shirt is over here. So it's stacking on. So if you want to get to shirt 1, for example, you have to take off this one, then you have to take off this one, take off this one, take off this one. So you have to work backwards. You have to work backwards. So the last shirt that he put on is the first shirt that you have to take off. Okay? So think about that a little bit. Think about how you would solve it. And then we're going to see how this connects. So in math, equations also wear a bunch of different shirts. And the way that we can think of how those shirts get put on, the way that your friend puts on the shirts, if he's an equation, is the order of operations. So if you don't remember, you can use this, which is PEMDAS. So this is telling you which things happen first, which shirts you put on first. So the first thing that the equation is going to put on is this, then it goes this, then it goes this, then it goes this. And we're really only going to be looking at this part today. We're going to look a little bit more at this in our next video. So let's look at an example. If we have 5x plus 3 equals 23, we want to know what shirts the variable is putting on. So 2 things are happening just looking at this. You see that the 5 is multiplying the x. When you see a number right next to the variable, it's being multiplied. And then we also see that we're adding 3. So those are the 2 things that we're doing. And PEMDAS right here, our trusty little tool, tells us the order in which x is putting the shirts on. So we know that it's multiplication and addition. So first we're multiplying, and then addition is over here. So first multiply, then add. So that's the order that x is putting its shirt on. It's multiplying by 5 first, and then it's adding 3. So that's how you know what order the shirts are being put on. So let's do a little bit of mini practice, and remember to write it in your paper and also share it in the comments with us. So I want you to think of an example. What are some things that you need to do in an exact order? And what happens if you don't follow the steps? So just think of things in your day-to-day life that you have to do in the exact order. And then for practice part 1 here, I want you to look at this and think about the things that we're doing to x. So just look at this example and then think about the things that we're doing to x, similar to how we saw it before. Like, what shirts is x putting on? And then here, what is the order that we're doing those things? All right, so pause the video. Feel free to write it down, put it in the comments, and then we'll move on. And the answers are going to be in the description if you want to check. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and we're going to look at how we can take the shirts off. Remember, you want to find your favorite shirt. You want to find the shirt that you want to see. So when we're talking about equations, the shirt that we want to see is x. We want to know what x is. So just to review a little bit, in video 2, we saw what inverse operations are. And basically, what that means is that if you want to undo addition or subtraction, use the other one. And if you want to undo division or multiplication, use the other one. So look at this graph here. Multiplication, division. If you want to undo multiplication, you do division. If you want to undo division, you do multiplication. And the same thing here. If you want to undo addition, subtraction, subtraction, addition. So you can't undo multiplication with addition. And you can't undo division with subtraction. The only way you can undo addition is with subtraction. So these are kind of like together, and these are together. So anytime you want to undo one of this, you have to do the other one. Anytime you want to undo one of this, you have to do the other one. So now we're going to see how we can start taking the shirts off instead of putting them on for this equation. So first, we know the shirts that it put on and the order that it put it on. So first, we know it multiplied by 5, and then it added 3. Now we have to take the shirts off, like with our friend. So we go backwards. And so to go backwards, we have to do this one first. So we have to undo adding by 3. And remember, to undo addition, we subtract. So undo addition by 3 means subtract by 3. And then multiply by 5. So we undo multiplying by 5, and that means divide by 5. Okay, so once again, think of an example when you had to take something apart or go backwards, and how did you do it? And then in the same problem that we were looking at before, what is the reverse order of things being done to x? So if you were to flip it around in what you had before, what would it look like? And then what are the inverse operations we need to take using the reverse order? So feel free to pause the video, write your answers in the comments, write it in your paper, and then we'll move on. Okay, so that's basically all there is to it. You know, you find the order of the shirts being put on, or operations. You know, operations is the shirts basically. So first you find the order. So we know multiply by 5, add 3, and then we find the reverse order using our inverses. And then we can start doing it to the equation. So if we have this one, the first thing, remember, was we subtract by 3. So always, anytime you do something to the left side, you have to do it to the right side. So we subtract by 3 here, we subtract by 3 here, and then this one goes away. And 23 minus 3 is 20. So that's what we have. And then the next thing that we do is we divide by 5 on both sides to undo the times 5. So we divide by 5 here. The 5 goes away. And then we divide by 20. And 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then we can look at another example. So here we see the order of shirts is divide by 6. Then subtract 10. And the reverse order using inverses is add 10, because that's the inverse of subtract 10. And then multiply by 6, because that's the inverse of divide by 6. And once again, add by 10 on both sides. And then these cancel out, and we get 13 over here. Multiply by 6, divided by 6 goes away. And 13 times 6 is 78. So I want you to try out this wacky problem. And if you get a little bit lost, the explanation is going to be in the description. I'm also going to start making some videos on how to problem solve things that come up with word problems and equations. But, you know, give it a shot. See how far you can go. So think about it. John is twice as tall as Paul, and Ricky is 10 centimeters taller than John. If Ricky is 200 centimeters tall, how tall is Paul? So feel free to do it any way that you can think of. And if you want to use an equation, that would be great. But I just want you to get thinking about this. In the description, I'm going to show you how you would do it with an equation. And then share in the comments how you're thinking of solving it, what you came up with, and so we can all learn from each other. Okay. So let's do another little practice. So give an example. Write your own equation that has two things being done to x, two operations. And then write the steps being done to x using PEMDAS. And then write the reverse order with inverse operations. And then solve the equation for x using everything you learned so far. And yeah, it'd be nice if you could write all your process, everything you were thinking in the comments so that we can see and learn from each other. Good job. You made it. So just to recap a little bit, in today's lesson, we looked at the order of operations, which was PEMDAS, and that tells us what is the order that we take in terms of the things that are being done to X. So that's how the shirts are being put on. And then we know how to use that for equations. So, basically order of operations, we know how to use that for equations. Then we go in the reverse order using inverse operations to find X. So that's our lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.